Good evening. I'm Joe Pica, and I've been selected to be the hearing officer for tonight's public hearing. These public hearings are an extension of the process of soliciting public input. In advance of the public hearings, the Commission has held 9 town hall meetings, including at least one in each of the 4 school districts, at schools in the city of Wilmington, as well as in Newcastle County. All of the Wilmington Education Improvement Commission meetings, including meetings of each of the 5 committees that you've heard described, have been open to the public and posted on the Commission and district websites. To get the word out about the public meetings, including the hearings, postings have been made to the solutionsfordelawareschools.com website, the Solutions for Wilmington Schools Facebook page, the district websites, district robocalls, flyers have been dropped at households throughout the city, and with community organizations such as the YMCA. The information was also shared by the members of the Commission and its committees with their networks. Just a few procedural items for the record. I'll be reading from a script, and later in the script I will explain how public comments can be made. Now to the script. Good evening. I declare this public hearing to be open. My name is Joe Pica. I am co-chair of the Redistricting Committee of the Wilmington Education Improvement Commission. I have been appointed by the chair of the Improvement Commission to conduct this public hearing. The Commission's interim redistricting report was released on November the 17th, and we are here tonight to gather public comment. This phase of the meeting tonight is not a question and answer session, unlike the one that preceded. This hearing will provide the Improvement Commission and the State Board of Education with an opportunity to receive public comment on the interim report. We have a court reporter present with us so that an accurate record of the hearing can be maintained. I'm also joined by my co-chair of the Redistricting Committee, Henry Harper, and the 2 of us have presided at the other 4 public hearings. It will be necessary for each speaker to clearly identify herself or himself by name and affiliation before beginning to speak, so that the court reporter will be able to note you in the transcript. The record of this hearing and the other 4 hearings will be provided to the members of the State Board of Education, together with any written or electronic comments received at this hearing or outside of this hearing between the period of November the 17th and January the 14th. We will proceed in the following manner. We'll take comments from anyone who desires to speak. There are sign-up sheets at the front of the room. Those wishing to offer testimony during the time of the meeting must sign up. We already have 11 names, and those others who are present are welcome to add their names. We will have speakers speak in the order in which they signed up. Each individual will have 3 minutes to speak. Each group will be allowed 5 minutes to speak. Those giving testimony will be given a 30-second warning by our timekeeper here in the front, and then a stop sign when it's time to wind up their comments. Anyone that has written testimony that they would like to provide to the Commission and the State Board should also provide those comments at the time of your testimony. Our first speaker tonight is Beatrice Dixon.
Good evening, and good evening, Mr. Pica and Dr. Harper. Once again, I find myself standing here before a blue ribbon panel to once again propose exactly what it is that's going to make the educational outcomes for the children in the city of Wilmington better. We have no commitment that the governance of the proposed board, once merged into the Red Clay School District, will change either its structure or its policies to allow the residents of the city of Wilmington to have a fair opportunity to input the its educational decisions. Failure, again, will be the fault of those who have been victimized for 30-some years by the lack of local control. We want parent input, but we don't welcome or provide for parent activity in the decision-making process. The future of the children is in the hands of a structure which has historically, for 37 years, failed them. We have models in Wilmington which have worked, and I beg you all to go and look up the history of Howard High School. It produced doctors, lawyers, and Indian chiefs. That history has been totally erased since we've gone into the desegregation process, and we now fault the victims for their failure to have either input or the ability to make a change in what is happening. I ask that if the General Assembly now wants to get itself involved in the process of educating children in the city of Wilmington, that we not fault them for their economic status. That we understand that in order for me to be an effective part of my child's education, that I obviously have to have some say in what happens. We don't need blue ribbon panels to come every 2, every 3, every 4 years to tell us what's best for Wilmington. When Wilmington was running its own schools, it did a good job. Wilmington can continue to do a good job if parents and citizens of the city of Wilmington who are footing the tax bill for this education. When we went into deseg, we had the Radisson and the Alico building downtown. Walk down Pennsylvania Avenue and take a look at all of the new tax ratables in the city of Wilmington. Wilmington can afford its own school district, and until there is a tacit understanding that we can make a difference in the education of our children if we're given appropriate input, then we're going to continue to meet here with another blue ribbon panel every 2, 3, 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dixon. Jay Street.
I'm Jay Street. I'm county councilman for the 10th district. I want to make sure that everybody knows that my remarks are mine and mine alone, and not related to any agency or organization that I have or that I do represent. I'd like to place in the record a copy of the January 2001 Neighborhood School Committee report, a copy of the March 2001 City of Wilmington report known as the River Plan, a copy of the April 2008 Wilmington Education Task Force report, and a copy of your report. I'm doing this for the record because I think it's very important to note that the first 3 documents And those four documents are all similar in nature in two critical ways. One, they call for a reduction of number of districts in the city, and second, they call for a weighted funding formula. In my opinion, what we've done, what we have, is 15 years of bad faith on the part of the state of Delaware. We've known for a 15-year period that children in the city of Wilmington in these high poverty, segregated schools cannot be appropriately educated with the same resources that everybody else has. Now, end of the day, this bad faith can't continue. The situation cries out for relief. And Declaration of Independence says that when certain rights are denied by a system of government over a long period of time, it is your duty to destroy or abolish that system of government in the instant matter. The system has failed over a long period of time. There is resistance from 2 of the 4 districts. Those 4 districts need to be abolished. We need to have a metropolitan school district. We need to have the same resources, the same tax base for everybody else. And all this foolishness needs to cease. I believe that the Neighborhood School Act, the Choice School Act, the Charter School Act are all unconstitutional, have had a segregated effect, violate the Equal Protection Clause. The state and the districts can't have it both ways. They can't have the Neighborhood School Act on one hand and then claim that it's not necessary on the other. My better judgment tells me that consistent with the only progress that's ever been made, only until a judge or judges compels the state of Delaware to do something will action be taken. In that regard, I'm not begging, I'm not pleading anymore. Y'all do what you want to do. I'm going to do what I have to do.
Thank you, Mr. Street. Mary Pickering.
Good evening. My name is Mary Pickering, and I'm a PACE leader. And PACE is the Parent Advocacy Council for Education, and our mission is to raise awareness among parents and people who care about the need to improve public education for students living in the city of Wilmington. Obtaining a quality education is the right of every American, and a quality education is one that fosters critical thinking, problem-solving, and cultural awareness. And this is critical for students to succeed, both academically and personally. And we in the city of Wilmington need to create and foster an environment that empowers students to achieve that success. Many of the children in the city of Wilmington have been or will be exposed to adverse childhood experiences, such as abuse, neglect, homelessness, domestic violence, and other street crimes. Traumatic stress from adverse childhood experiences undermine the ability of children to form relationships, regulate their emotions, and learn the cognitive skills necessary to succeed academically. After all, can we expect students to concentrate on their schoolwork and behave normally while riveted by emotions so horrific they're beyond words? These students need and deserve compassionate support. After Hurricane Katrina, schools didn't expect students who survived to return to academics without some accommodation for the trauma they experienced. So how could it be that when it comes to these other forms of trauma, we expect our students to succeed academically while we ignore the chaotic realities of their lives outside of school? How children absorb information and the issues surrounding their ability to learn must be resolved in order to provide quality education effectively. So as you're looking at models of best practice to deal with students who have experienced trauma and other social or emotional challenges, I urge you to consider the compassionate school model. Compassionate schools are open to students who have experienced trauma or live in crisis. They respond to trauma by providing an environment where healing can occur. A trauma-sensitive approach is embedded in the school culture, and this enables children to feel academically, socially, emotionally, and physically safe wherever they are in the school. And when children feel safe, they can calm down and learn. I get only 3 minutes?
She's representing a group.
Okay. Both Washington State and Massachusetts have adopted this model. Both states cited research breakthroughs to help their decision in adopting the compassionate school model. One was the CDC's Adverse Childhood Experience Study, which found a correlation between childhood trauma and chronic disease as adults. And the second was the discovery by a group of neuroscientists and pediatricians that childhood trauma has long-term consequences. Both Washington and Massachusetts took a district-wide approach to transform their schools and were very successful in reducing suspension and expulsions. For example, one elementary school with 826 students from kindergarten to grade 5, 86% of which were minorities, saw a 40% drop in suspensions. And for the city of Wilmington, accessibility to quality education will depend on the ability of educational leaders to transform our current education system to one that is trauma sensitive. The compassionate school model will help achieve this goal. So I'll urge you again to consider adopting the compassionate school model, and local leaders at both the city and district level could be the champions for this, because the absence of a positive learning environment creates barriers to students accessing a quality education and contributes to their falling behind and ultimately dropping out of school.
Thank you, Ms. Pickering. Ray Avery, here to represent West.
Five minutes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Ray, R-A-Y-E, Jones Avery, and I am speaking on behalf of the Wilmington Education Strategy Think Tank, WEST, the acronym. Dr. Allen and members of the Wilmington Education Improvement Commission, we, the members of the Wilmington Education Strategy Think Tank, WEST, appreciate the depth of the work that has been put into the Commission's interim plan. This is the latest iteration of a group of concerned citizens. We have been working since 2013 to develop, prioritize, and advance specific goals for the benefit of Wilmington students, including 1, the reduction of districts that serve the city. 2, the development of an equitable weighted funding formula addressing student need. And 3, the establishment of an authoritative role for Wilmington in the continuous improvement of the public education of its residents. We're pleased to see these priorities were reflected in the WEAC recommendations earlier this year. And endorsing the WEAC's action agenda, we are committed to supporting viable action steps that are resourced properly. The ideas presented here and our ongoing work are evidence of that commitment. WEST supports the Commission's plan with conditions. We believe there are several key principles that must be the foundation of the ongoing work of the Commission, State, and the General Assembly for any plan to succeed. Our continued support will be based on evidence that these are accepted and pursued. Resources first. The transformation of the structure of school funding to be weighted towards student need is critical, and achieving this must take precedent in the governor's recommended budget and in the decision-making during the 2016 legislative session. Address concentrated poverty. The proliferation and the maintenance of schools with highly concentrated poverty and inequitable distributions of resources is unacceptable. Commitment to equity. Policies to ensure equity must be central to any process moving forward at every level, district and state. No opting out. Colonial and Brandywine school districts' status quo positions are unacceptable. Get the Metro District right. A consolidated metropolitan city-county school district is highly desirable, but we feel that further deliberation is needed regarding its ideal configuration to ensure the above priorities are pursued. We have written submission on page 3 in a table. There is further explanation of these positions, and we also have attached a report. West commissioned an independent study to take a look at how public schools are financed, and when we say that there's an average of $10,000 or so spent per pupil, this report points out very clearly that schools have gross disparities between the schools that our children in the city of Wilmington attend and other schools throughout the city, other schools throughout this county and the state. So in closing, I'd like to let you know that we take seriously our responsibility to facilitate the best possible opportunities for our babies to succeed. We thank the members of the commission for doing the same and seeing the value in our expertise. We look forward to working and continuing to work together towards these ends. I'd like to recognize the membership of the Wilmington Education Strategy Think Tank, Anamdi Chakwocha, Wilmington City Council person and chair of the Education, Youth, and Families Committee, Theophilus K. Gregory Sr., President, Wilmington City Council, Shannon Griffin, community organizer, ACLU of Delaware, Lynn Howard, consultant, Christina Cultural Arts Center, Jacqueline Jenkins, Dr. Jacqueline Jenkins, Chief Strategy Advisor, Office of the Mayor, City of Wilmington, Kathleen McCrae, Executive Director, ACLU of Delaware, Rourke Moore, Special Projects, Office of the Mayor of the City of Wilmington, Maurice Pritchett, Chief Executive Officer, Pritchett Associates, J.P. Street, Newcastle County Councilman. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Avery. Did you have some materials that you wanted to also submit?
I do. Who do I submit them to?
You can give them to me and that'd be fine. Thank you. Donald Farrell.
I'm Donald Farrell. I'm a East Side resident, and I'm just here speaking as an individual, concerned individual. I hope the I hope the committee will consider creating an alternative to the zero tolerance-based policies currently used that pushes children out of the classroom. This tends to increase truancy and leads to delinquency, which creates an opportunity for youth to offend, that also creates a path into the juvenile and criminal justice system. It seems that the current model of test-based accountability creates incentives and opportunities to expel low-performing students to boost overall test scores. Failing public schools seem to unwittingly prioritize incarceration over education by engaging in this practice. Students then face the same barriers to reentry that incarcerated individuals face when attempting to reenter society. They're still unprepared, permanently behind, and many of the students may not graduate high school. In closing, it is my hope that more funds are reallocated from the criminal justice system to hire more counselors and provide special education services to identify these students early on and make them a future-driven student that is patient, treats others with respect, and strives to be a good citizen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Farrell. Jerry Velazquez.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jerry Velasquez. I've come to this meeting as a resident of Wilmington, as I was and still am very much concerned about public education in this city. I remember when my 3 children were young and I was looking to enter them into public school here in Wilmington, there wasn't a local neighborhood school for me to put them all in. But I also come to this meeting as a board member of the Thomas Edison Charter School. I'm still very concerned about giving children of Wilmington the chance to receive the best education possible in neighborhood public schools here in their own city of Wilmington. But I've also come here to express my deep concern about how we're going to go about to try to improve the delivery of educational services to the city of Wilmington. So with that, I ask, just like on December the 2nd, how City Council put out a press release asking the citizens of Wilmington to become educated about the WEIC report. I too would like to also give kudos to Dr. Allen and his report, but I'm also looking at City Council members also, and I'm going to ask that City Council also take a lead in understanding that this is something that's impacting your constituents, your parents, your voters. And so you need to look at the situation that you clearly all understand, that having a plan without resources is a plan that's destined to failure. So I would hope that the City of Wilmington City Council is going to rise in unison and also address what this report says and how it can be best effectuated here in this particular city so that we can achieve the maximum effect for our low economic, struggling children here in the city of Wilmington. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Velazquez. Timothy Crawl Bay. He's gone. Juan Bellamy.
Good evening, Sean Bellamy, Hopes Academy. I'm not representing a political branch. I'm not representing a PhD branch. I'm not representing a circle of classmates who grew up in the city of Wilmington. I'm representing them babies right there that are represented from every school district in Newcastle County. Red Clay, Brandywine, Christiana, DeVoe, Texas as well. It seemed like all these reports over all these years never took into consideration what these babies are going through in these schools before you submitting these reports. We're dealing with teacher problems from Brandywine, what is Red Clay Vocational. I'm dealing with the problems that y'all are not addressing in this WEIC committee. I have been to all these meetings over and over and over again. Y'all have not came to us yet to speak to the babies, to see what their input, what would make their education run smoothly. It ain't that they're failing their own self, the teachers are failing them. Just today I'm dealing with a teacher who called a young lady bald-headed and said, I would snatch you by your head, but you ain't got none. And it was recorded by other students in the school. I'm at Bayer School every week. These things are not being attacked in these WEIC reports. It sounds good. but it's the same reports over and over and over again. But when are you going to talk to the babies to find out why they dropping out, why they don't want to go to school, why they not functioning in the morning? We talk about low income. All them babies are low income and they doing hell of a good in school. Properly educating all children equally. That's not happening. As a student, they receive maybe $13,000.
Hi, my name is Suya. We talk about education. We're talking about what needs to be done on a big level. It's always something simple that y'all make this complex problem. It's not that complex. It really isn't. Treat them like humans. They can tell you what's going on.
WEIC recommendations should automatically include 1 to 2 additional board member seats for residents in the city of Wilmington as a prerequisite. So that should be a requirement. Red Clay School District serves 15 elementary schools, whereas 47% did not meet annual yearly progress, AYP. Compare this to Christina's charters within Red Clay help change the game. For example, 3 out of 5 high schools in Red Clay met AYP, yet 2 of them were charters. In essence, when looking outside of the charter population, Red Clay only had 1 high school meeting AYP, and while Christina had none. Clearly there is a concern. Clearly both districts are actually failing the students. So why would we take schools from Christina and place them with Red Clay? Although impossible to prove, I personally wonder if this plan is about privatizing education, particularly in Wilmington, by your decision to choose a district that is amenable to the charter market. Red Clay has historically felt our students are asked to resign or not be rehired. Furthermore, the possibility of reassessing property homes or raising property taxes may leave an undue hardship to families that we say that we're trying to assist. Lastly, we have yet to discuss specific variables that may directly impact a student's academic performance. That's particularly those
and transparencies within all schools at the school level. And what I mean by that is that I would like to go to each school individually and see how funds are being specifically spent in that school. I don't want it to be buried in levels of web pages that's hard to find and hard to understand. It needs to be included on a 3rd grade level so I know my credits and my debits simply. In order for us to gain and have trust in this process going forward, we need to understand how money is being spent, which states our priorities. So therefore, if we're able to see exactly how each school within our county spends their money, we'll be able to actually suss out exactly our priorities within our school. And finally, I want to speak to the possibility and the vision for Wilmington. Wilmington is an awesome place to live. And I think all too often we forget about the wonderful residents that live here and who are creating great communities. And I'm proud to be a Wilmingtonian, and I'm proud to be working with others in that fashion. I think if we have a vision for our schools, in addition to magnet schools, not necessarily charter schools, which are still governed by the public system body, we'll have a better opportunity to advance and specialize in certain areas of technology, culture, arts, math, and engineering. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith-Tucker. Mike Matthews, Red Clay Education Association.
There you go. Good evening. My name is Mike Matthews. I'm president of the Red Clay Education Association. Since the governor's announcement of 6 priority schools 15 months ago, the Red Clay Education Association has been fully engaged in ongoing talks and planning surrounding not only our 3 priority schools, but all city schools and how education reform in Wilmington could have impacts far beyond the city boundaries. While our association has not taken a formal position on the recommendations of the Wilmington Education Improvement Commission, I can say that we are in agreement that should these recommendations come to pass and the shift of Christina's city schools to Red Clay go through, our members believe that the current employees of Christina should be afforded the same opportunities to remain in their city schools as Red Clay did with our priority schools last year. We believe WEIC and Red Clay should take a do-no-harm approach to the educators in Christina's city schools who, through no fault of their own, have been placed in a beyond stressful situation and who have shown a commitment to remain in their schools to service their students. Both districts and the state must work collaboratively to ensure the fairest, most equitable, and dare I say humane process be identified to handle the potential transfer of staff between districts so some semblance of consistency can be afforded their students. Aside from staffing concerns, RCEA has serious issues with the potential lack of funding, not just for the redistricting of Wilmington City schools, but the long-term funding implications facing all of our schools, in particular our neediest schools racked and ravaged by generational poverty. Educators in our highest need schools have been screaming for years for additional supports and resources, but they haven't come. Instead of supports, they get blame and shame from their elected leaders who choose to judge their performance based on a test score. Instead of resources, they're told they'll need to reapply for their jobs. I've visited all of the schools in Red Clay in recent months, and I specifically ask my membership at each school what their thoughts are on WEIC. Aside from many people not having any clue what's going on, I can share with you what I'm hearing remains consistent across schools. 1. More mental health and emotional supports. Schools with a high number of students in poverty must be equipped with a full suite of mental health professionals to attempt to remediate the challenges our students bring to school every day that are often informed by a great deal of trauma in their neighborhoods. These professionals must serve as a bridge between home and school to fill the ever-widening emotional gap our students experience. They must be able to put boots on the ground and form the types of relationships that many of our classroom teachers don't often have time to do because district and state administrators are so concerned with test scores as opposed to serving the needs of the whole child. Smaller class sizes. Students in our high poverty schools require more support. Simple as that. Ability gaps in high poverty schools are usually much greater than their more affluent counterparts. We need a better funding system that immediately provides schools with more teachers to be able to meet the needs of all students. Many of our teachers believe elementary homerooms in high poverty schools should be well under 15 and under 20 in our secondary schools. Time to fund it. Less testing. Teachers in city schools and all schools are tired of testing. Instead of focusing on a test score, they want to be able to offer their students more vibrant extracurricular and arts programming that many of the students in the suburbs receive. Not sure about other districts, but Red Clay has become so perversely focused on data gathering in our city schools in their endless quest to see higher test scores that the love of teaching and learning has been severely diminished. All high poverty schools should be provided full-time unified arts teachers outside of the unit count system, as well as any necessary reading specialists, special education teachers, and gifted and talented teachers also outside of the archaic unit count system. Our schools in Wilmington can be successful, and if you want my opinion, there are many successful things happening in every one of our city schools on a daily basis. I would ask members of the state board, the legislature, and WEIC to visit our city schools and all of our schools and serve as ambassadors to the rest of the state to make all of Delaware aware of the great things going on in our schools. But please know our city schools can't continue to do more with less. Any WEIC plans approved by the state and the legislature must provide for a more equitable funding stream for students in poverty, students with disabilities, and English language learners. This is non-negotiable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Bill Dunn.
Some excellent comments this evening. I'm Bill Dunn. In the late 90s, I spent time on the Red Clay School Board when Mr. Pica was head of the state school board, I believe. And then through the early 2000s, I was following all the public education systems pretty closely, especially Red Clay, and took a great deal of involvement and interest in it. More recently, I've been more involved in county government, but having said that, I was on Red Clay in the early days of choice and charter when they were first getting implemented, and watched the change in how the schools were operating and how the suburban students looked for every opportunity they could get outside the city for elementary programs more specifically, as well as the Red Clay School District constantly looking at new charter schools. As a matter of fact, when I came on, we were considering Montessori school at the Shortledge School down off Market Street there. Having said that, I listened to this, and I haven't dug deeply into the details that exist to this point, but I have reviewed some of them. And one of the things that stands out to me is that more recently, Red Clay has not performed for the lower socioeconomic students, be it minority or otherwise, especially within the city of Wilmington, the way they had once done. If you go back and look at early 90s data on city students performing in Warner School, which was third, fourth, and fifth grade program, those students outperformed most lower socioeconomic schools across the state, and were closely tied to what Brandywine's performance were for similar type students and in school environments. In the early 2000s, the Neighborhood Schools Act came in, and all the different districts were obligated to meet the requirements, or they had to argue hardship, which Mr. Pica or Dr. Pica would remember, in which they made a substantive argument in the Brandywine School District that they should be granted hardship, and essentially the integrated process that they had in place at the time, and obviously convinced the state school board to allow the exception in the circumstances. What I see in the data that I've reviewed most recently, although Christina has done horrendously poorly for the inner city, lower socioeconomic students, Colonial and Red Clay have not done very well either. And the best performing programs that exist right now are coming out of the Brandywine School District as to lifting the lower socioeconomic student closer to a higher level of educational performance. Taking that into mind, two of the things that I think WEIC needs to seriously reconsider, regardless of what comments might come out of Brandywine, is to consider moving the boundaries between Brandywine and the Red Clay School District. Make the Brandywine River the dividing line, maybe give the east side here to Brandywine and Red Clay take the rest and split it some way. Because I don't think Red Clay is presently prepared or performing at a level that would benefit those students at this time. Secondly, I would also request that have you request Red Clay produce a plan as to how they will improve their academic performance for city and lower socioeconomic students. One of the things that they've continued to use is the waiver process for the K-3 program. Since I left the school board, when the last year I was on the school board in '99, we wrote waivers for 29 classrooms district-wide. Since then, Red Clay has built 2 brand new elementary schools, yet continues to ask for waivers, and I think some of them are in the city. There is no reason why they can't meet student size requirements, and not only should they meet it, they should fall below the maximum number of students that they're permitted to have, so that they can do a better job of giving individual attention to individual students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. Alvin Figueroa.
Good evening. My name is Alvin Figueroa. I'm a pastor. I represent Association Pastors United here in Delaware, which most of the members of the association, it's normally in Newcastle County, and more than those in Newcastle County live here in the city of Wilmington. I'm also Latino, but not only because of that I want to speak of Latinos. I want to speak about that you guys to focus in the ones that you call minority or low poverty, high poverty groups. Those students, they are very good students, and I know they want to try their best. Don't close the doors on them. We as pastors have worked with them, and we see the need that they need to have that preparation. So I just want to give you an advice or an opinion. Let's get out of the offices. Let's get out of the seats. Go out to the communities and speak to these students and see what the needs they really need. How the the education department of education could help them out. I know changing these boundaries has things that are maybe there that other people and maybe Latinos don't see, and it's just about test scores and all this stuff. But truly said, don't abandon these kids. Try as much as you can. And I know us as parents and pastors, we're going to try as best as we can to support the Department of Education. But please do not close the doors on these children. Do not close the doors in the public school. I was in a public school all my life, and I became out a good guy. And I know they will come out as a good guy too, or a good person too. So look at them as humans, that they got heart the same way as you guys have, and let's try the best for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Figueroa. We have now run through all of the names of people who have signed up to speak. Is there anyone else who would like to provide testimony this evening? Could you sign up? Yep.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Hanifa Shabazz, and I'm a City Council representative for the 4th District here in the City of Wilmington. But I'm speaking as a long-time Wilmingtonian, grandmother, great-grandmother, and one who has been and seen all the many changes that's going through the educational system here in the City of Wilmington. We are not only dealing with just an equitable educational system that the WEIC plan is addressing, and all the other plans have addressed, and many of the comments that everyone else says, but we all say that education is the foundation of a civilization. As you all know, the Center for Disease Control came into the City of Wilmington and did an investigation about the horrific violence that's plaguing our system, plaguing our community. And when you looked at the final report, and they did a very extensive report, 549 individuals who committed a crime. They tracked their lives from the day they were born to the time they either pulled the gun or they were killed by the gun. And you could see the many, numerous, tremendous amount of interventions that took place throughout the various systems throughout the state. Mainly, I talk about the one dealing with education. The graph was so, it had a dot for every intervention or engagement that that individual had with the educational system. It was a solid picture. It was that many centennial events, they said, that the student had with the educational system, whether it was expulsion, or whatever engagement was. Not alone the many times, then it continued to go on to, from the times, the issues they had with school, to the criminal justice system, to public health, to maltreatment, whether they were going to the hospital, and also the fact how many of them dropped out of school. Education being the foundation for every civilization, it's essential that in order to reverse the pandemic that our community is under, that we have got to get education straight. And when we've been in many meetings talking about the prevention and the cures and the public services that the state, that has been given to the individuals, that the small percentage was for prevention and a large percent was for treatment. So we talk about we don't have money. We do have enough money, because I think the Delaware Department of State Health and Social Service budget is $1.5 billion. So we do have the monies, it's just reappropriation of the monies. We are in a pandemic state of mental illness that's been brought upon the community, not the nature of the community. The powers to be have created an environment that's resulted in the toxic mental illness and dysfunction that's in our community. We must get the educational system straight. I would love the timeline to be less, because we already got 4 generations that have already plagued with this. So we all must come together and do what's necessary, look at all of the facts, all the data, remove the politics, and do what's better and save our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Shabazz. Darlene Battle. And let me make one last call. If there's anyone else in the room who wishes to give testimony, to sign up.
Good evening. I just have to read this first. I have the audacity to believe that people everywhere can have 3 meals a day for their bodies, education and culture for their minds, and dignity and quality and freedom for their spirit. And this was written by, this was written in Norway, Dr. Martin Luther King in 1964, and it seemed like we're still arguing about the same thing. Giving our kids equal education, good education. Back in 2008, Annenberg Institute had pretty much wrote and predict where we are now, and we tried on the federal level to say this is what we want: small class sizes. We need community schools, because our teachers will know the kids. The parents can go to after school program, go to the kids' activity, go to the meetings, and be more involved. And I've been in Delaware for now 14 years, and I still have a problem that these kids being bused all over the place. I run a nonprofit organization, Delaware Alliance for Community Advancement. I had, since I started, over 1,000 young people from Sarah Powell, and I wanted to ask what's going to happen to Sarah Powell. They come into and do a lot of volunteering at my organization. These kids, I have to have food on my job so they can eat, because they get up so early in the morning to catch the bus to go to school. And it seemed like I'm just picking up where my mother dropped off, because she did the same thing. And it's not the fault of the child, but they have to go to school. They have to catch that bus like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning. So I welcome them to have food so they can eat. And then we provide free tax service, and this is important. We provide free tax services. So the kids come to my office for 5 days, 10 to 3, and they learn tax laws. And I'm proud to say, even though these kids are being bussed in, I'm proud to say out of 15 of those kids, 5 of them have passed the IRS tax law. And they're going to volunteer and do taxes. But what I would like to see, and I've been asking over and over again, how come the city of Wilmington doesn't have its own school district? And they said, well, they don't pay enough taxes. We got businesses here that is profiting off of us. So let them pay the taxes. Stop giving them tax breaks and make them invest in our children's school. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Battle. Lee Fisher. And one last call for anyone else here in the audience who would like to speak. Please sign up.
Good evening. I'm a resident of Wilmington, Delaware, and my concern is this. In the inner city part of Wilmington, where the crime seems to be a serious problem, and education is lacking, and perhaps that is one of the contributing factors, what can the educational system do to neutralize the interests our youth seem to have for the street lifestyle. There's one thing I can say, and I would like to compliment the young generation that is here today. I would like to not only compliment you for being here, but I'd like to challenge you, if I may. Out of all you young brothers and sisters there, can we find an Harriet Tubman among you? A Malcolm X among you? A Marcus Garvey? Because that is what your generation is in dire need for. And for you to be a leader, you must get the knowledge that will enable you to guide others. Our educational system must be set up to provide them with that kind of education.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Anyone else who wishes to speak? Our official time limit was 8:30. We've gone beyond that considerably. And so at this point, I declare the hearing closed. I want to thank you all for coming this evening and participating. All comments made today or submitted between November the 17th and December the 15th will be shared with the State Board of Education. Thank you very much.